Brandy.
Yes, Happy New Year and welcome to another edition of Get Me The Brandy. Dan Potash alongside the voice of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Josh Getzoff. And I have to ask right off the bat how your voice is, considering you got a little extra action on Sunday in Chicago with 7 goals and then 5 more goals Tuesday against Carolina. Doing all right?
Yeah, no, the break came at a good time. I had a whole 5 days to rest up the vocal cords and the larynx, and good to go. Dan, we came out. I mean, 4-goal first period. It was like a Chris Letang coming back from injury. I wasn't easing myself back into it. I'm going full steam ahead into the deep end.
Well, now another reason I have to make sure that the pipes are okay. You'll be doing a very special game as far as the Winter Classic for 2026 between the Rangers and the Panthers. And I know that's a cool opportunity, and we'll get more into that in just a second. But I want to backtrack because you've been there and done this before in a pretty cool place in Boston in 2023. What did that opportunity in itself mean for you before we get to opportunity number 2?
Well, the first one was special. One, because it was the Penguins. Two, because as you know, the Bruins, while not anywhere near my team and a team that I most of the time am actively rooting against, do have a very close connection to me, with my wife being a huge fan and
Sure.
being from the Boston area. So that game obviously was special because it was the Winter Classic, but being against the Bruins at Fenway Park. And Phil Bork and I called that game on the radio network, and we were on the first baseline. So like to be out there on the field, essentially, rinkside for that game was crazy. And still, like, you looked around during the game and you're like, that's the Green Monster. Like, this is Fenway Park. This is crazy. And if you remember, Dan, the weather was kind of mild that day. Like, Boston
Yeah.
in
Yep.
January is usually brutal, and it was like 45, 50 degrees. So the only thing that was missing was a Penguins win. But yeah, that was an amazing experience. And I had my wife's side of the family was there. So and our little guy Gunner, he was at the game. First hockey game first sporting event he ever saw at Fenway Park was the Winter Classic. So he has set the bar at an unattainable level for the rest of his life.
Okay, so you just mentioned a bunch of reasons why that was a cool opportunity in a historic venue. Now you get the opportunity to call a second Winter Classic in Florida in a partially domed stadium. So another cool opportunity. How did this come about for you?
Yeah, it kind of came out of the blue, honestly. I got a call from the NHL Network pretty much right after the Global Series in Sweden, and they asked me if I would be interested in doing it. Obviously, I said yes, but I was grateful that, one, it didn't intersect with any Penguins games, and two, that the Penguins and Sportsnet Pittsburgh, there was no hesitation. Both sides were all in, said, go, enjoy it, congrats, good luck. So that was nice to have the support of everybody. And just kind of been getting things slowly by the week, I guess, as it gets closer to the game, which is now a couple of days away here as you and I talk. But it feels more real now, seeing the pictures of the arena and the pictures of the build out there and the ice, and saw the video of our old buddy Evan Rodriguez going on the ice with his kids there on Instagram the other day. So there's a lot of like Penguin flavor there. Essentially, our entire coaching staff last year is now behind the bench with the Rangers, and you got JT Miller, the Pittsburgh kid, Vince Trocheck on New York. I don't know if JT's going to play or not, but it looks like there's a
Yeah.
possibility. And then of course the Panthers, 2-time defending champs, and starting to get healthy. And it does sound like Matthew Tkachuk is going to make his season debut in that game. So he has never been one to shy away from the dramatics and the spotlight. So not surprising overall that he's potentially coming back there, but makes it more fun to call. I'll be doing it with Jason Demers, who's with the NHL Network, but longtime NHLer with, San Jose and Arizona and Florida. And should be a lot of fun. I'm really interested to see what you said, that it's indoor, it's domed, it's kind of a different feel of a Winter
Yeah.
Classic. But it's going to have a Florida feel, which is the first of its kind. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, another very cool opportunity and well deserved. Obviously, have a lot of fun. I look forward to hearing about it when you return for this weekend's games for the Penguins. And As a broadcaster, more so as a play-by-play man, you know, you're constantly using uh, an eraser or whiteout or changing your boards, as we like to call them, which is a giant platform for putting down the rosters and any notes for the two teams that you're calling for people that aren't aware of the lingo. With that thought in mind, the Penguins acquired a new player just a couple days ago, which may have caused you to scratch and turn a page or clean the slate. Yegor Chinakhov. Yay, Gor Chinakhov. Let's talk about the move and what you think about someone who, former number one pick in Columbus, but things didn't work out. And how many times have we seen it before? A change of venue is a world of good. We'll see, right?
Yeah, we will see, and that's the hope, right? I mean, this could be a great ad for the Penguins. And I will say, as far as my boards are concerned, I just did a quick highlight over the name of one Jake Gensel, deleted that,
Oh,
and
the
Yegor
number.
Chinakhov went right in that spot. So that was the simple fix there with him wearing number 59. But uh,
Yeah.
I will say that you look at this kid, and we've seen him before, Dan. I mean, the things that jump out to me and that I remember from the times I've seen him live is he has a laser beam of a shot. He can really wire it. He's bigger than it would appear. I think he's a shade over 6'1". He's north of 200 pounds. So he's a big kid. He's 24 years old, the former first round pick. I mean, you see the stats right there. He's a guy that I think, for whatever reason, fell out of favor in Columbus. He's not the first young player to be in an organization to fall out of favor. This has happened before across the NHL. And the most interesting thing to me is that he gets traded to Pittsburgh. It's one thing for Columbus to move him, but to move him to a rival within the division, who, by the way, you're hosting, if you're Columbus, on Sunday, and he could potentially come right back there and bite you in the butt with what he's been given now as a new lease on life as a Pittsburgh Penguin. That's the hope. I'll be interested to see where he slots in. The one thing I will say about this deal, I think, from the Penguin perspective, is it gives them another legitimate option to move up in their forward group. And they're all of a sudden, Dan, when you look at the Penguins group offensively, there's too many forwards. So there's now this competition that Dan Muse has stressed this since day one of camp. I want competitions on the ice in every drill. I want competitions off the ice within the locker room. Well, now you got one literally in game action here as to who's going to be your 12 forwards, because you have a couple too many right now with Chinakhov coming on board. So I think it's fun. I think it's exciting. And whenever he does make his debut, I think there'll be a little extra juice because people will be excited to see the new guy and the potential that the ceiling could be, shattered by what he could be given as far as opportunity here in Pittsburgh.
Yes, that's right. It's just like the Penguins soccer game before every contest when a new player joins. New guy, new guy, new guy. Um, so with that thought in mind about flexibility, and Bill Cowher used to always talk about when players would return from injury, and all of a sudden instead of just having a handful of wide receivers, you have a bunch and they're all very good. He would say this is a good problem to have. Okay, we'll see how that pans out. But the Penguins also have quite a few draft picks. Your thoughts about them using a couple of those picks, because they have so many, to acquire talent like this, the options that it gives Kyle Dubas and the staff moving forward.
Yeah, what's funny about the whole thing, to me at least, or not so much funny, just kind of eye-opening in a way, is everything Kyle has said during his press conferences has been true. There's a lot of GMs out there that we've heard from across the NHL that'll say things because it just kind of fills the sentences in that need them to be filled in questions and answers and press conferences about teams. But he's been pretty straightforward. He said, listen, we have all these draft picks. That by no means that we're going to be picking 30 players over the next 3 years. I mean, you were there with me in this past June, or was it early July, when they introduced the
Yeah,
2025 draft class. It looked like a high school graduation photo with all
it
13 of
did.
those guys up on the podium. We're never going to see a draft class like that again in Pittsburgh. I feel pretty
Yeah.
confident in saying that because I think that all these picks that he has, not that he's going to trade all of them, but he's going to trade some of them, as he just did, to acquire players that potentially can not only help the Penguins at the present, but be part of the future too. And, Chinakhov's on the final year of his deal. I think it's a real no strings attached type of move, because if he does pop off, then you give him a little bit of a raise and he stays with the Penguins and things work out. And it looks like you're a genius for making that move. And if he doesn't, You took a chance on a kid that potentially could have helped you, and it just didn't work out. But all that remains to be seen with him. But you're right. I think that the amount of picks that they have and where they have them, that's important too. To have the couple still in the second, have the couple still in the third across the next couple of years on top of the firsts. They have value picks. It's not just one thing to have picks, but they have value picks. Teams around the league, they're enticed by those kind of picks to move a player that maybe wouldn't necessarily be movable otherwise. And I think Kyle also can package some of those picks to have teams take on contracts. Give them a little bit of incentive. Do you think there's a chance that third round pick in 2027, or maybe even the second round of this year, could have been a little extra juice to take Danton Heinen's contract? I do.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
that's
think
a good point.
that's possible as far as how he approached it. And I don't think it could be the last time we see that either. So good on him for, one, acquiring all those picks, but two, utilizing them as assets.
Um, it makes you wonder what's next and if we should stay, with our head on a swivel, wondering when he's going to pull the trigger. Oh, speaking of which, and I'll take a step back. I think I need to talk to our producer, Nick, about adding in a special graphic that says breaking news and kind of fly it in and flashing red and then go away. Because during this broadcast, we had another trade where Kyle has sent Philip Tomasino to the Philadelphia Flyers, another team within the division, for defenseman Yegor Zamula. Uh, your thoughts on breaking news here on Sportsnet Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, first the Blue Jackets, then the Flyers. What's going on in the NHL with these trades between rivals? Are we going to get like a Panthers Lightning trade next or something like that? That would be insane. That's not going to happen. But here's how I look at it. Philip Tomasino, honestly, Dan, there's a little bit of
Yeah.
what we just talked about with Chinakhov with Tomasino last year, the former first round pick, kind of disgruntled with Nashville, got a fresh look here. At times looked really good here last year, but that longer stretch he got with Evgeny Malkin, if you remember, he had some moments, but I don't think enough to really stick there. And then this year kind of got moved a little bit further down the pecking order with some of the young kids coming up and making a name for themselves. And I think that Philip Tomasino still remains to be a solid hockey player. He's just hasn't put together the complete package to be a consistent NHL player. And maybe that happens in Philadelphia. I mean, that's the Flyers obviously are hoping for, and Danny Briere and getting a guy like him into the fold there. But Zamula is a similar situation, as I understand it, as Chinakhov was, in the sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big,
He's a
big,
little
big,
bigger.
big guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a big lefty, right? Like big left-handed defenseman. I don't know if skating is his biggest strength. I've heard he's not the fleetest of foot, but he is physical, and he's a young guy and 25 years old. And as we mentioned, he's got a bigger frame. So I'm curious to see what the plan is for him, because you acquire him one for one. There's no baggage attached on either guy with Tomasino or Zamula, and he's going to report to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. So all of a sudden, the Penguins, don't forget, we talked to Jesse a little later on in this episode, but Harrison Brunicke is off in World Junior land with Team Canada. He's a righty. We have all of a sudden a dozen defensemen that could potentially be playing or vying for an NHL spot. So basically, that's a long way of saying Zamula enters the fold, and there is no way Kyle Dubas is done.
No, and you mentioned Zamula under contract, I think, through this season. You go back to Yegor, who was I think will be an RFA at the end of the season. So a lot of opportunities with, to see how you do here, and then we'll see what the future has in store. And to get back to Tomasino, here's a guy who I honestly, Josh, I thought towards the latter part of last season, after he had been here for a little while, we saw him really become an effective forward for the Penguins. I thought he found a home. He got another year extension. I thought for sure that we were going to see him really blossom here this season.
So did I, because I think that when you looked at Philip Tomasino, like we said, he had taken some strides here last year. He looked like he kind of was starting to put it together, but I don't know. I just felt like there were too many times where he wasn't noticeable enough. And a guy in that role, you need to have those kind of moments within games where you're still talking about him. I mean, think about guys like Blake Lizotte and Connor Dewar and Noah Chari. I mean, we talk about them every night. they're rarely on the score sheet. Even guys, I think we've talked about the kid line, like Kindle and McGroarty have made a lot happen offensively, but they haven't necessarily been rewarded. But you can point to 5 or 6 moments within a game where it's like, oh, they did this, they did that. I never really found myself saying that as much about Philip Tomasino, especially, those last handful of games he played. And then he was in and out of the lineup. The Global Series, I believe, was really the last longer stint he got playing in those games. But then that's it. So, I wish him well. I enjoyed him personally. He was a really nice guy. Really made time for everybody. His dad last year on the dad strip was one of the stars of the show, as you know.
Yep.
He will enjoy Philadelphia. I can speak firsthand. We're not all bad people from Philadelphia, Philip. So go over there. Good luck. And maybe he can adopt the Philadelphia Eagles as his team when he's in town.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Yeah, that's true.
Or maybe not. You mentioned Jesse
Probably
Marshall.
Ottawa Red Blacks. Or no, wait, he's a Toronto Argonauts fan, right?
He's a Toronto guy. Yes, that's true. You mentioned Jesse Marshall. He is going to join us next. We'll get a look at some of the Penguins prospects and what Jesse has to think about the future. Jesse Marshall from The Athletic joins Get Me The Brandy next.
Inside Penguins Hockey is back.
Let's go eat sushi.
For an all-new season.
And now he's your best friend.
Yeah. Getting a line in the water is always a joy for me.
Inside Penguins Hockey. New episodes every month on SportsNet Pittsburgh. Presented by UPMC Health Plan.
All right, welcome back to the show. And we are joined by a special guest. He is the man in the middle. He is also the one man that lays down the law when it comes to talking about hockey prospects. So we have called in the Marshall, Jesse Marshall of The Athletic. Hey, buddy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Always enjoy reading your material when it comes to what the Penguins may look like in the future. And let's start with a couple of guys that are currently on display at the World Junior Championships. And I wanted to get your thoughts on Harrison Brunicke and Will Horcoff and what they have done and what the window of opportunity may look like as that tournament continues, and then we'll see them back at this level.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Will Horcoff is coming in white hot. I mean, he's been the hottest player in college hockey this year. Flirting with that 20-goal total for most of this month. It seems like the United States team is trying to find the right ecosystem for him right now. He's played all over the lineup. In the last game, we saw him on the left wing of the third line primarily. I don't think he's going to stick there that long. I think when you have a finisher of Will Horcoff's caliber, and we saw it on display earlier this tournament when he scored his first goal, he doesn't need a lot of time and space to rip one into the back of the net. He can score from compromised positions, guys draped on his back. His release is lightning fast, and he just needs a second to stick on puck to get a lot of accuracy and velocity out of his shot. And I just think when you have that kind of cannon in your lineup, beyond what he can do on the power play, I think that you're going to see him slide back up. His environment at Michigan has been, he doesn't do a lot of the heavy lifting with like zone entries, carrying the puck across the blue line. He's going to a scoring area. That's his bread and butter this season. It's been what he's good at. It's got him the number of goals that he has. I think they're trying to find that balance for him and a line for him in this tournament that allows him to just do that and be focused on what he's really good at and supremely talented at. I think we'll see him back in the top 6, maybe even as soon as tonight. I think about a guy like an LJ Mooney who's on that second line, who loves to carry the puck, loves to have it on his stick. That to me sounds like a really good partnership. And I know that comes at the expense of Cole Yzerman, who himself is a good young prospect. But Horcoff all year has been surrounded by guys at Michigan that love to do that work. They love to carry the mail and then distribute to him. I think that's where he's at now, is getting that balance back. And I think for Harrison Brunicke, it's just been shaking the rust off. The circumstances for the Penguins this year, the rules around that, how important that 9th game is, right? And what it does to your entry-level contract. And then you even look beyond that to 40 games and what that does to your potential restricted free agency eligibility in the future. They've handled it, I think, really well, as best as they can. He got to knock a little bit of that rust off at the American Hockey League level, but I think he's been great. First of all, I don't think there's any panic alarm ringing here. There's nobody should be concerned about Harrison Brunicke. But I think in that third game, you saw him winded a little bit. And it's going to come from the fact that, look, you can practice as hard as you want. Everybody knows you can't replicate, especially a tournament like the World Juniors, you can't replicate game speed at practice. And I know the Penguins have done a great job at keeping him conditioned. But I think now that he's through that third game and he's sort of, I think, getting his wind back, I think we're going to see an even higher level from him this far. I know he's probably not found the score sheet as much as he'd like. It's not for a lack of opportunity. But we have to remember, too, there's a defensive side to this, and they're trotting Harrison Brunicke out in some really challenging and difficult circumstances against the world's best. So it's going to be a balancing act for him. I think his want to and desire to sort of carry the puck and be the guy who rushes it up ice sometimes has to take a back seat to making sure his zone's clean. But I think he's looked great. I think there's potential for more. I think now, especially that he's getting his sea legs back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts, Jesse, just on his being Brunicke's kind of process this year, because you kind of took us through the 9-game check mark. Obviously, the 40 game is there as well, and the horizon potentially. But the Penguins have definitely put a lot of work into the development of him this year. And I think at times fans have been left a little frustrated because they haven't seen him during this development. Like, he's been with the Penguins, but he's been a healthy scratch for a lot of games. Then he was in the American League, and then he went off to World Juniors. So just kind of to give us your perspective, having watched a lot of these prospects and how they kind of mature, what his process is like in your eyes as far as how it could potentially benefit him.
Yeah, I think the Penguins, Josh, have been working with him a lot on the video side, specific to when he was in the lineup and giving him a lot of good feedback. I think specifically about the defensive side of his game. I think offensively they've been very pleased with what he brings. I mean, it's been on display. He's unbelievably talented in the skating and puck carrying departments, but that pro nuance can sometimes be hard to learn, especially for a defenseman where you've got shooters and puck carriers at the NHL level that have a bag of tricks, the likes of which you just have never seen before if you're a Harrison Brunicke. And I think that's coaching him up to better read the defensive situations he's in. That's only going to come through film and practice. And I think that's where he's immersed right now, Josh, is if you're thinking about how do you make this flower grow, right? That's the way you do it in the environment that he's in. Obviously we're a year too late on the CHL AHL transfer agreement alteration that would allow him to play in the American Hockey League at his age. That's coming right around the corner. But for this year, I think it's clear they don't feel like there's a lot left for him to learn at the WHL level. And his team is better this year. They've climbed up the table quite a bit. They have an unbelievable draft prospect named JP Hurlburt, who's kind of put the team on his back in Brunicke's absence. But I think he's better served now, Josh, to kind of immerse himself in this culture, soak it in, be around pros like Chris Letang have been doing this for the better part of 20 years and take it in that way. And it can certainly frustrating from a fan perspective. But when it comes to these contractual things that we talk about, they don't seem important now, but in just a few short years, these discussions we're having today will greatly impact what the Penguins have to do with him in the future. So I think this tournament is the perfect opportunity for him to showcase and a reminder to everyone of what he's capable of and what makes him such a special player.
Jesse, we had Will on the podcast just a few weeks ago, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we brought up the fact that Jason Spezza called Will a rink rat, that he's always around and it's hard to get him off the ice, can't get the kids out of the pool. That combined with, the natural talent with his father having played in the National Hockey League, is that I don't know how to phrase this exactly, a dangerous combination, because he's really just exploded with Michigan, and it makes you wonder with that strong work ethic and those natural skills, is the sky the limit for a kid like this?
Absolutely, Dan. And let's not take away from the fact that he's just strong as an ox. I mean, he spends a lot of time in the gym. And when you watch him at the NCAA level, he's brushing people off. It's very, very difficult to handle him right now when he gets ahead of steam. And he's charging through a scoring area. Your best bet's sometimes just to take a penalty and hope for a better chance next time. So it's a nature versus nurture thing, right? He's got the bloodlines. Obviously, his dad had a long, lucrative NHL career and was super successful in his own right. But that only takes you so far. And I think when you look at his physique, I think that's the thing that had scouts sort of drooling at him being that first round talent, was the sky is the limit here. And the stats didn't jump off the page last season, but he changed programs in the middle of the year, right? His first game was right around New Year's when they played the outdoor game in Michigan, and he scored in that debut. But he was also the youngest player in college hockey last season. And I think it's easy to lose sight of that. When you change environment, you go from a development program that he was with where they're traveling around and playing all different types of games, some even against USHL teams. And now you're at Michigan playing outdoors against Ohio State. And that's a big change, right? In a new environment. So I think the stats, I don't think told the whole story. I think it was probably a little bit better last season than the numbers painted. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's certainly blossoming this year with the minutes that they're giving him. He's playing in all situations, shorthanded, power play. He's been a monster at even strength. I think that a lot of what he does, guys, you can't teach people, or it takes years to do it. And that's that innate understanding of, I go here to score a goal. These are the important areas. And this is how I'm going to navigate my space to get to that open area. That's really where he excels and is probably years ahead of a lot of his peers in that, right?
Well, he's obviously, as you mentioned, Jesse, he's going to kind of move around this USA lineup and see if they can get to the top of the table when all things are finished there at the World Junior Championships. So my question to you is, I mean, you're all over this, obviously watching every single game. We are too, but I know you see it from a different eye level. And I had the chance to do the U18s last year, which Will was in, and LJ Mooney. Team fell short there despite running the table in the round robin round. They got upset by Sweden. Canada ended up winning gold with Ben Kindle. But now, you look at this tournament. Do you think the U.S. has enough to make it 3 years in a row at the top of the podium? Do you think they can get the job done on home soil here?
Josh, I think that's encouraging part about this team is not just the scoring that you can get from them up and down the lineup. I mean, if you look back at the last game when they were in trouble, who came to the rescue? It was their bottom six. It was their depth talent and special situations at that, right? Being harassing on the penalty kill, turning the tide of the game from a momentum perspective with their physicality. But what I love is that the United States has, I think, already shown in this tournament that they have an ability to play a couple different styles of hockey, sometimes within the scope of the same game. I think they started out that last game with a little bit of a heavy foot. They spent the first 3 minutes of the game in the offensive zone. And I think that led to some fanciness that sort of dug them a hole. They started to take some penalties. And they dug out of it by dumping pucks in and getting to work, right? They were putting the waders on and mucking through the slop. So I think we've seen them be dynamic and be able to execute these like high level skill chain type of plays. But when the time comes and they need to get to work, they've shown they can do that too. And I think when you look at what they're going to get out of Sweden in the next game, that's going to be a huge challenge for them. They're going to need to be able to play that sort of multifaceted game against a Sweden team that's lightning fast, but can also come at you heavy. I think that I think they have the juice for sure. And I think this team is unique in that it features a couple different types of talent offensively. You look at a Teddy Stiga, you look at a Will Horcoff, you look at a Cole Eiserman, a James Hagens, who's just now heating up and is starting to, I think, sort of grab the team by the scruff of the neck in some situations and drag them across the line here. But you've got such a wide variety of player. I think it speaks to this team's ability to be adaptable and if need be, play an uglier style of hockey than they probably want to. So I think noting that we've already seen those characteristics, Josh, I feel pretty confident that this team can get back to at least a place where they can get an opportunity to repeat.
We touched on Ben Kindle, of course, a number one selection by the Penguins back in June. Another one in that first round, Bill Zonin. And I know that he's been slowed by injury, and I don't know if slow is the right description because he's so fast. I don't even know if injuries can really slow him down. But the fact that he's missed some time, what are your thoughts about what he can do when he is 100% healthy?
Yeah, Dan, I'm really bummed that Pittsburgh didn't get a good taste of Bill Zonin in the fall, because I think he's a player that's going to endear himself to this city. And if you think about some of the guys that have come through that have become fan favorites, the people that love that people love to watch, going all the way back to Gary Roberts, Patrick Hornquist, right? They're all Bill Zonin type players. He's the kind of guy that the coach can confidently deploy no matter what the circumstance is, because there's going to be a wave of momentum that comes your way after he hits the ice. Is very relentless on the forecheck. I've thrown the Hornquist comparison around. I think Hornquist is Kunitz is another good one, pulling from Penguins of past. guys that are tenacious on the forecheck and annoy defensemen all night long, whether that's crashing and banging in the boards, getting in front of the net. The great thing about Bill Zahner is that he's got this offensive upside that you saw blossom last season, where he developed into a very lethal shooter and a guy who can do a little bit of dangling in the neutral zone to create himself some time and space heading into the offensive zone. Obviously, again, slowed down this year by the injury, but scored in his first game back, had 2 points, seems to be on a roll and not missing a beat as he returns the lineup. But I think this is somebody that as time wears on, and you see him again next fall as he comes through for prospect camp and the preseason festivities. When he has his health, I think Pittsburgh will really, really love to watch Bill Zahner play the game. It's a crash and bang style, high energy, high speed, mixing it up on the forecheck, and just somebody that's very easy to root for.
And I think, Jesse, because he was the first rounder, even with the injuries, a lot of people are familiar with the name, at least in Penguins land, because they hear him. But you go a little deeper in some of these picks recently. One guy that I've seen you write about and you put some videos out about, which, by the way, you do an unbelievable job with the coverage of these prospects online. Like it's yeoman's work for people that don't get to see them all that often, and you make them very visible to a lot of people. And one guy who has certainly caught my eye that you cover a lot is Ryan Miller. And he's had a terrific year, 5th round pick for the Penguins in this prospect heavy edition draft that just happened this past June. Just kind of give us a synopsis of who this kid is, and is he potentially one of these? We've seen them throughout the years. I mean, Wes Clark has made a name for himself doing this a couple times. Is this one of these deep in the draft kind of finds potentially for the Penguins?
Yeah, Josh, I think so. I had a lot of fun putting the video together on Ryan Miller, and I caught him when he was in the middle of a 19-game point streak that ended up extending even longer than that. But I think the biggest thing I could say is that Portland felt confident at his age to make him captain this year, which you don't often see in somebody's draft plus one season. But when you watch the way he interacts with his team, his behavior on the ice, and then just his approach to the game, his work ethic, it's very easy to see why they made that decision. This is a player who's a lot of fun to watch. He is dogged in all 3 zones. I think there are just certain players, Josh, that you watch and you say, despite this player's age, I can already see pro habits, right? I can already see things that place this player a step or two ahead of some of his peers, and the habits they have in the defensive zone, the investment they have in certain behaviors on the ice, and some of the less glamorous jobs that don't always catch the spotlight. That's Ryan Miller's game. And I think he's added a touch of confidence to his offense this year. You're seeing a little bit more from him in the dangle department, some niftiness with the hands, toe dragging, right? Spinoramas. I think, that sense of feeling it has been on display. But this is a player with, for me, pro potential, and screams to me as a guy that at the very least, Josh, is going to be a real impact player in someone's bottom 6. I think, there's always that potential there that the offense has grown. We've seen it grow this year. But when you watch his approach to the game, relentless defensively, engaged in his own end, stripping pucks, creating offense from his defensive behaviors. And then just on the forecheck, he's not the biggest guy on the ice, but he loves to skate right through people. There's a real no-nonsense approach to how he likes to carry the puck in. Like I said, he's added some flair to that this year, but more often than not, he's just going to bowl somebody over. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's built tough and is a difficult a person to handle on offense as a result. So super strong. Again, when you hear about him from his coaches, great habits in the gym, right? These Wes Clark picks, the first word out of a lot of these coaches' mouth is dedicated to the game, student of the game. They love to be around the game. And it seems like Dubas and Clark are really investing a lot in players that love hockey. And sometimes love the less glamorous aspects of hockey, like blocking shots and getting dirty in the corners and, taking an elbow here or there. So Ryan Miller fits that bill. And I think, there's a prospect that, we're hopefully going to, see hit the ice again here soon, and Tanner Howe. I think Ryan Miller and Tanner Howe are remarkably similar players. And the difference is I think Tanner Howe has that edge, that Marchand-like edge, where he's constantly goading, right? His mouth's running a lot. Ryan Miller is more of an action speaker, where he'll answer by catching you in the corner and hitting you clean. But they're remarkably similar players. Just that pro style, no nonsense approach, super responsible in all 3 zones, and I think you're starting to see a lot of that from this general manager and his staff.
Jesse, let's stay with the fifth round, but go back a couple years, and I want to reference Zam Plant, who has really gotten up to a great start this year. What has sparked the ability or the opportunity for him to kind of get going? Not quite the numbers that Will Horcoff is putting up, but still enough to open your eyes.
Honestly, his brother. So he's playing with his brother Max, who's a Detroit Red Wings prospect. And watching the two of them from Minnesota Duluth is just a lot of fun. It is just a lot of fun. There is a natural chemistry between them, and you can tell that they've been playing hockey together since they were 5 years old. They have their own bloodlines, right, that they report through. But they, at one point, were number one and number two in college hockey scoring this season, heading into the month of November, and have really taken a big lift for that Minnesota Duluth team, who was young last year, went through their struggles, but the Plant brothers have been phenomenal, and I think that Max has been a little bit more of the puck hunter. And some of the mixing it up on the forecheck, puck distribution, whereas Zam's been, again, much like Horcoff, right? A great finisher, and he's obviously adept at setting his brother up too. He's very good at finding the two of them. They find each other quite a bit on the ice. I did a piece in Elite Prospects, which just, it's one of those things where people often struggle to define chemistry in hockey, but when you watch the two of them play, they rarely look at each other. They're just making these no-look behind-the-back passes. There's no yelling involved. It's just this innate sense of where's my brother going to be. So it's been a lot of fun, and I think that the first few years there were, again, that was a really young team who took their lumps upon Plant's arrival, through present day when they've turned it around. But he's earned this. And I know his stats maybe weren't as glorious in the early years of his development, but the circumstances around him weren't great. And I think that team's grown together now. They've gelled, they've added pieces, and you're starting to see the fruits of that now. So that's a player that a little bit more, as far as the pro game is concerned, you're looking at a little bit of a quicker ROI since he has been drafted now for a couple years. But I expect him to be a player that could potentially be impactful to Wilkes-Barre Scranton as soon as his journey in college is over.
Well, Jesse, those are some, I don't want to say buzz names, but I think there's some of the more popular names in Penguin prospect land. But like we said, you're all over this from top to bottom. Before we let you go, are there any other names Penguins fans should be paying attention to that are in the pipeline that maybe aren't front of mind right now or getting the most press clippings, but are making some noise and some headway as far as their development is concerned?
Yeah, Josh, I always have time to talk about Quinn Beauchene, who is
Okay.
the defenseman that the Penguins selected out of Guelph in the Ontario Hockey League. Got sidelined earlier this year with an injury, got a little bit of a late start, but is picked right back up where he left off. Again, not playing on a glamorous situation. His team's struggling. They're in a rebuilding transitional phase, but he's still a lot of fun to watch. And I he's such an aggressive, proactive defenseman. He doesn't wait for things to happen. He's out there. He's constantly attacking, keeps a really strong gap. And then when he steals the puck, the offense he can generate after that is a lot of fun to watch. So has a fun tradition, Josh, of his billet mother in the CHL that he stays with. He was on a bit of a dry run last year. He wasn't scoring. And she took, she's a bit of a holistic naturalist, if you will, and they started setting mason jars of water out at night. And she said that the power of the moon would jazz the water up and get him to score, and it did. So he's stuck with that now. So they call him the Moon Man up there in Guelph because he sets that water out at night, lets the moon power soak it up, and I guess that gets him to score. So, but a really good two-way defenseman, guys, and somebody that again, just such a motor, really great skater, and is a real bulldog on the ice in all three zones.
You've mentioned some great names. If we stay with the name alone, Cruz Lucius. I mean, what a great name. I mean, come on, he's got to be on your radar, right?
It reminds you a little bit of like a villain in an old '90s hockey movie, right? Yeah. Another guy having a great season in college, and at times the team has really looked to him to be the sole provider of offense in tough situations. He has scored some big goals this year in dramatic fashion, late in games, comeback style stuff to seal games off when the team needs him. But you get a lot. I'll tell you, you really get a Brian Rust vibe I think when you watch them, even down to when Rust was at Notre Dame, taking back to that same age, I think they're very similar players, right? I think that they're tough to take down. They hunt open space really well, and they have unassumingly great shots. And I think with Lucius, you add a touch of speed to that. His ability to break away from opponents is what has really set him apart this season. His first and second step is greatly improved. So when that puck hits his stick and he hits those jets, he's a tough guy to catch. So I think, again, looking forward to a pro debut from him in the not too distant future, but a player that certainly has made a name for himself at the college hockey level this year with, his ability to be involved in some really trademark moments for his team.
Well, Jesse, this has been some awesome stuff. Dan, I don't know if you have anything more to ask Jesse, but incredible detail. And like I said, I think you really do an awesome job following the Penguins, their prospects, and honestly, even outside of that, just everything you've done for the athletic elite prospects. I mean, it's been fun to follow along. Obviously, we'll continue, but thanks again for swinging by. It's been really insightful. Seriously,
I appreciate it anytime, gentlemen, and thank you both very much.
Yeah, Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
No one gets you ready for puck drop like Penguins Face Off Live. Pre-game insights, analysis, and a word straight from the coach. Penguins Face Off Live before every game on SportsNet Pittsburgh. Presented by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield.
All right, welcome back to Get Me The Brandy. And once again, 10-year anniversary. Hard to believe. Wow, 10 years since the 15-16 Stanley Cup Championship for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And a chance to look back, and I guess with the Penguins acquiring Yegor Chinakhov, he'll be alongside of Evgeny Malkin, and he would be the first Russian-born forward to start on Malkin's line. You would think at some point, maybe, as things pan out, since 2015-16. So let's go back, trivia time. And once again, producer Nick doing a fabulous job. Look at this question. I don't look. I understand I could cheat and get on the internet ahead of time and get the answer, pretend like I knew it, but I did not. So, Josh, the pressure's on you. What's going on with this one?
I know this one. I do.
Okay.
I feel very confident. If this was phone a friend and you phoned me and this was the $1 million question, you would be owing me $500,000 because I would take 50%. Here's who it is. He was traded to the team they were playing. The Penguins were playing the same night that they were playing them, and he had to walk down the hall and face them that night. They were playing the Arizona Coyotes, but first he was Evgeny Malkin's line mate. His name was Sergei Plotnikov.
Oh,
yeah, there he is. And you know what my memory is? Dan, you were there for this. I'm surprised you might remember it when I bring it up now. We love Jim Rutherford, right? We love Jim Rutherford. He was awesome. Hockey Hall of Famer, legendary GM, brought the Penguins, made some moves to bring the Penguins back-to-back Stanley Cups. That trade with Plotnikov, I remember he met the media, and I was working for the radio network then, and I had the recorder out for our pregame show. Mm-hmm. And he met the media to discuss the trade, and he said that the Penguins had traded Bolitnikov to the Arizona Coyotes. Imagine my surprise when former football player Fred Bolitnikov had resurrected and was traded to Arizona.
A Raider.
Oh, it was so funny.
Oh my, that's a great memory by you. Yes, it's now all coming back to me. But wow, that's so, it's funny how sometimes the timing works out where you get the hallway trade and they go from one room to the other. It happens a lot in baseball, quite frequently actually in baseball, but to actually be there present for it. Yes, it's just crazy, right? You don't even have to pick up the phone to make the call. You just walk down and say, hey, let's make that deal. And down the hall. See you later.
Yeah, you walk down with your bag and they're like, hey, hold up, that logo, you're at the other end. No. Actually, I need to replace this bag with one of yours. I'm one of you guys now. I remember Borky tells a great story when he was with the Rangers that they made that trade with Edmonton. I think it was Doug Waite went from the Rangers to Edmonton for Esa Tikkanen coming to the Rangers. And he was on the Rangers at the time. And he said, same thing at Madison Square Garden. These two guys walked past each other in the hallway with their bags and sticks. going to opposite dressing rooms to then play each other that night. So it's happened, but it's unique in hockey. You're right. I feel like it does happen more in baseball for whatever reason, but it's so unique in hockey. And that was one that I will never forget for those two reasons. Yeah.
And I don't, maybe I'm blanking here. I know it's happened in baseball where a player has played in a game, left, got traded, or was traded, left the game, flew to his the location of the new team he was going to play for, and played for them that in that same day. In hockey, that would be crazy, right? If you had an afternoon game, you got traded, it can actually make it over to another facility or arena and play for your new team.
Yeah. The only example I can think of that's even close to that, and I don't remember for sure, but I think it was the same day. Remember when the Penguins got Nick Bjugstad and Jared McCann from Florida,
Oh,
and they were
that's when
standing
they
in the tunnel before
yep, they made the jump to light
Jeff
speed.
Jimerson finished the anthem, and they're just standing there like, what is going on? We were just rushing in a car, and now we're in uniform. And I think I remember like Bjugstad like fell over his first shift into the penalty box or something. Like it was that was a crazy one. That one comes to mind as maybe the only example I can think of like day of
Yeah.
game, guys arriving quite literally at the absolute last possible second to play.
Yep. Yep. It's funny how all of a sudden it becomes urgent to, you went ahead and acquired something. You want to get it involved in your system and on your team as soon as possible. But a great memory by you going back to 15, 16. And yeah, little did we know that it would be a part of our trivia question 10 years later as we once again celebrate the Penguins Stanley Cup Championship, their fourth title in the National Hockey League. Great stuff on this week's show, Josh. Obviously, love talking to you.
Yeah, you too, Dan. Love talking to you too. Hey, happy New Year to you and the family. It's crazy. 2026 doesn't even seem like a real year when you say it out loud, but that's where we are now.
That's where we are, and we look forward to the next episode of Get Me the Brandy.
Oh!